Madame l'envoyée spéciale, dear panelists, dear representatives from Interact, dear colleagues, dear friends of the Arctic. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all tonight on behalf of the Embassy of the Principality of Monaco. I'm thrilled that this is the second year in a row that we can collaborate with civil society partners on the sides of the Arctic Futures Symposium to bring some attention to the ever important role of NGOs, academia, and private actors working to ensure the fair, inclusive, and sustainable development of the Arctic. I think I recognize a few faces from last year, but I'm pleased to see many new ones. And then it's probably a good idea to begin by answering one question that maybe some of you are asking, which is, why on earth is Monaco hosting an event on the Arctic? And since I'm willing to wager that some of you didn't know that Monaco had an embassy here in Brussels prior to this evening, it is fair to assume that not everyone will be well informed about my country's role in this very important region of the world. Monaco's relationship with the Arctic may not seem evident at the first glance, and probably as well at the second glance. But some of you may have had the opportunity to visit my country, and I must confess that Arctic is probably not the word you would associate with a city-state nestled on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea. It may come as a surprise then to hear that the ties between Monaco and the Arctic go back well over 100 years, dating back to the scientific voyage of Prince Albert I of Monaco at the end of the 19th century. Our head of state, great-great-grandfather, Albert I, was one of the founding fathers of modern oceanography. During his reign as Prince of Monaco, between 1889 and 1922, he captained dozens of scientific expeditions across the world's oceans, including 4 to the Arctic. There, he met with indigenous leaders, took part in the mapping of Spitsbergen, where some geographical features still bear his name, and contributed towards a better understanding of the region's incredibly diverse ecosystem. Following on the footsteps of his ancestor, our current prince, Prince Albert II of Monaco, remains today the only sitting head of state to have reached both the North and the South Pole, doing so to raise awareness about the impact of climate change in these regions. Beyond such symbolic actions, his personal foundation has long led and supported programs focused on the polar regions. Most recently, the Polar Initiative has become a flagship project of the Prince Albert II of Monaco's foundation and aims to build a network of Arctic and Antarctic scientists and experts to play a leading role in the conversations around these regions. Some of you will surely already be familiar with the work of the foundation, and I invite everyone in the room to reach out if you want closer cooperation, to reach out my colleagues, Louis and Johannes, who must be in the room, and you will have the possibility to meet them at the reception afterwards and ask them all the questions you like about this subject. Ladies and gentlemen, today the glaciers charted by Albert I at the turn of the 20th century are rapidly melting. The impact of climate change on the Arctic poses an imminent threat to the region and its indigenous communities. But it does not exist in a vacuum. Climate change and the irreversible impact it will have on the Arctic ecosystem is a global hazard. This is why my government has long advocated for a decompartmentalized approach to the issue of climate change, ocean protection, and the environmental preservation, and why my government supported and funded the IPCC during the elaboration of its special report on the ocean and the cryosphere, which was eventually adopted in Monaco in 2019. This landmark report marked the first time the IPCC directly studied the significance of the cryosphere and polar regions in the fight against a changing climate. I hope that Tonight's discussion will highlight the importance of such global approaches and the need for more interaction between all relevant stakeholders. Of course, climate change is not the only threat presently facing the Arctic, let alone the rest of the world. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine has shown us just how detrimental exterior dependencies can be, and the Arctic, with its vast reserves of critical raw materials, will prove decisive in the coming years. This is where it is important to recall that indigenous people have a fundamental right to be listened and to when it comes to the management of the key resources found on their land. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very interesting program tonight, so I will wrap up my intervention now. I want to thank you for your presence, and I want as well to extend my thank you to the team of Interact, and Vanessa in particular, as well as my colleagues from the embassy for their excellent cooperation in preparing this event. And I hope that you will leave tonight with a better understanding of the crucial nature of interconnectivity in our efforts to develop, preserve, and protect the Arctic. Thank you for your attention.